Well, it's Monday, March 2nd, 2026. I'm Brittany Noble, and here's what's coming up on The Breakdown. A top Trump advisor says schools may have to teach students to love America to receive federal funding. We break down what this could mean for classrooms across the country. Why the mayor of New York City now says Black New Yorkers' contributions must be fully recognized. And hidden dangers on and off the field, how bias and health disparities are putting Black athletes at greater risk for undiagnosed brain injuries, and raising confident children without creating entitlement. A conversation about discipline, accountability, and preparing the next generation for success. The Breakdown starts right now. The celebration of life for Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. continues. Jackson is lying in repose at South Carolina State Capitol Rotunda. A memorial caravan traveled to Columbia, South Carolina on Saturday, ushering his body in a brand new hearse driven by Chicago-based funeral home Leake & Sons, traveling through 6 states. Jackson's foundation as a civil rights champion began with his upbringing in South Carolina. Jackson was born in the segregated town of Greenville. A private homegoing celebration will be held on Saturday, March 7th at Rainbow Push. Well, New York Mayor Zohran Mamdani set the record straight. Black New Yorkers helped build New York City. The mayor spoke with historian and podcaster LaToya Coleman and admitted to overlooking the contributions of Black Americans in the city in his previous comments, where he said New York was a city built by immigrants. Mamdani, who was born in Uganda to Indiana parents, is one of many politicians who have taken a stance in support of immigrants and against President Donald Trump's federal immigration crackdown. Here's more on him clearing the air with Coleman.
Okay, so we're here at the end of Black History Month. So I have 2 questions for you. Sometimes we hear people say this is a city built by immigrants, but how do we also include enslaved people and indigenous people who have built the foundation of America and New York City as well?
So I have to admit, I've been guilty of this myself.
I didn't want to say
it's true. I did say that myself.
A city built by immigrants.
And I think the first thing is, if we're being honest, then we have to tell the full story, right? And when we tell a sweeping generalization like that, we lose sight of the fact that Black New Yorkers helped to build New York City.
I felt some type of way.
Understandable. Understandable. That's why I'm here to apologize, because you learn from it. And I think that as much as we want to, and we should, support immigrant New Yorkers and their incredible place in the city, doing so doesn't necessitate that we overlook the contributions of Black New Yorkers. We can tell that full story.
Well, the United Steelworkers Union installed Roxanne Brown as its 10th international president. Brown is the first woman and the first Black woman to lead the Steelworkers Union. Elected last fall, she replaces David McCall, who did not seek re-election after serving as the USW's international president since September of 2023. Brown served as USW International Vice President since 2019. She joined the union's legislative and policy department in Washington, D.C. 27 years ago and rose through the ranks. The USW represents 225,000 members in nearly every economic sector across Canada and is the largest private sector union in North America, with 850,000 members in Canada, the U.S., and the Caribbean. President Donald Trump's top policy advisor, Stephen Miller, says schools must teach children to love America if they want federal funding. In a stunning declaration, Stephen Miller unveiled a plan to reform U.S. education. In his announcement, the Homeland Security advisor emphasizes that schools need to teach children to love America and be patriots while ensuring federal funds do not support communist ideology. This is part of Trump's agenda to counter woke culture. Take a listen to Miller's comments on what is expected of schools if they want to obtain federal funding.
Children will be taught to love America. Children will be taught to be patriots. Children will be taught civic values for schools that want federal taxpayer funding. So as we close the Department of Education and we provide funding to states, we are going to make sure that these funds are not being used to promote communist ideology. For any nation to be successful, it cannot teach its children to hate themselves and to hate their country. So these are a few of the areas in which President Trump has fought the cancerous communist woke culture that was destroying this country, where we were led to believe that men were women, that women were men, that racial discrimination was good, that merit was bad, and that safety and physical security mattered less than the feelings of liberal ideologues.
Well, Miller has stated that the Trump administration plans to close the Department of Education and redirect funding to states with strict conditions on how the money will be used. Well, this week brought more justice for the estate of Henrietta Lacks, the Black woman whose immortal cells revolutionized modern medicine. Novartis, the Swiss pharmaceutical giant, has settled a lawsuit filed by the Lacks estate, which accused the company of unjustly profiting from HeLa cells. These cells were taken from Lacks' cervical tumor at Johns Hopkins Hospital without her knowledge back in 1951. At the time, Lacks was a 31-year-old mother of 5 when doctors at Johns Hopkins removed her cancer cells during treatment. Her cells became the first immortal human cells capable of growing in a laboratory and being reproduced indefinitely. For more than 70 years, Lacks cells have contributed to significant medical breakthroughs, including the polio vaccine, genetic mapping, and COVID-19 vaccines. But despite this, the Lacks family never received any compensation. While Johns Hopkins states that it never sold or profited from the cell lines, many companies, including Novartis, have patented methods for using them. The settlement marks the second instance of legal resolution in lawsuits filed by the Lacks estate, which contends that biomedical businesses have benefited from a racially biased medical system. Well, Civil Rights TV, the world's first 24-hour television network dedicated exclusively to civil rights history, education, and future equity, has officially launched on the Connect to Your City streaming platform powered by Connect to OTT. The network made its debut from Selma, Alabama. Civil Rights TV delivers around-the-clock programming focused on historic moments, cultural education, community leadership, and conversations shaping the future of equity and justice. Viewers can watch Civil Rights TV by downloading the Connect to Your City app or Roku, or by streaming directly online through the Connect to Your City OTT platform.
And the actor goes to... You are shining herald of Michael B. Jordan.
Well, actor and producer Michael B. Jordan is adding another major honor to his growing list of achievements. Jordan took home a top award at the NAACP Image Awards, recognizing his continued impact both on screen and behind the scenes. Known for powerful performances in films like Creed and Black Panther, Jordan has also been praised for using his platform to elevate diverse storytelling and create more opportunities for Black creators in Hollywood. The win highlights his influence not only as an actor, but as a producer, helping reshape representation across the entertainment industry. Well, Colorado University quarterback Dominique has died. Colorado State Patrol say the 23-year-old was involved in a single car crash. According to authorities, that crash happened around 3 a.m. on Sunday in Boulder County. Police say Ponder, who was driving a 2023 Tesla, lost control on a curve and went across the eastbound lane, striking a guardrail and an electric line pole before rolling down an embankment and catching on fire. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Police say speed is suspected to be a factor, though a full investigation will still take place. Ponder was a third-year sophomore from Opelika, Florida. He spent the past 2 seasons with Colorado after transferring from Bethune-Cookman. Colorado coach Deion Sanders posted a tweet in wake of the tragedy, touching on Dominique's legacy. Dom was one of my favorites. He was loved, respected, and a born leader. Let's pray for all that knew him and had the opportunity to be in his presence. Lord, you're receiving a good one. Well, coming up today on The Breakdown, how cultural bias and health disparities are impacting concussion diagnosis and long-term brain health in Black athletes and our communities. What parents, coaches, and families need to know to protect our athletes. The Breakdown continues after the break. And remember, for more news headlines and in-depth coverage 24 hours a day, please visit the Black Star Network. We are your source for stories that matter to our community. We'll be right back. You're watching The Breakdown with Brittany Noble on the Black Star Network.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
If in this country right now, you have people get up in the morning and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power, that's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
We are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say, and they don't ultimately win.
I'm Risa Colbert, and you're watching the Black Star Network.
Welcome back. Today, we're examining the growing concussion crisis impacting Black athletes and the broader health disparities tied to brain injuries. Research shows cultural bias, access to care, and systemic inequities can lead to underdiagnosis, delayed treatment, and long-term cognitive and mental health challenges. Joining me now is Dr. Elena Davis, Associate Professor and Chair at Howard University, and a certified speech-language pathologist whose research focuses on concussion, brain injury, and health equity. Welcome to The Breakdown.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. Tell us a little bit more about your research. As I understand, it examines concussion trends among Black athletes at the professional level.
Yes, currently, what my lab is doing is we're going through all of the NFL injuries from the past, well, probably since 2020. And we're looking at all concussion and neck related injuries, whether it was suspected or confirmed, and trying to identify where the disparities or the trends exist. And then also, some of my research also focuses on culturally responsive assessment tools to make sure that diagnosis is appropriate.
And what did you discover?
Well, it's quite staggering. So, what we know is that there's about 1,700, give or take, football players in the NFL. And out of those, about 771 of them experience concussions. Of that group, we found that 71% of them identify as Black athletes, which is quite a high number.
And so that data connects to your work that shows that Black NFL players sustain concussions at significantly higher rates than others.
Yes. And so, the NFL also, we know that there's a large number of Black players in the NFL. But it really is about 56%, so about half. What we do tend to see is that a lot of Black players play in defensive roles who do a lot of the hitting, and they get hit a lot. And so we do see that they do tend to have higher rates, particularly within this sport and even in basketball. But what we also know is that there are significant disparities in the healthcare access and use. So the treatment that's received, the diagnosis, actually receiving care following the injury.
Let's talk about that a little bit more. So your research shows that Black athletes are less likely to receive concussion diagnosis or proper follow-up care. Why do you think that gap exists?
There's a few reasons for that. One, we start at the base with the actual assessment tools. I teach about this in my classes. A lot of the assessment tools in neuropsychology and in speech language pathology for cognition were normed on white males from the Midwest primarily. There's not a lot of Black participants that are included in the standardization process. So the items in the test, the way the test is structured, it doesn't account for our communication styles, our cognitive styles. So that's going to be one factor. The other factor is that there are systemic issues, right? We know that a Black player may come and say that they have some different symptoms going on. They may not be recognized initially. Also, the symptoms of concussion can easily be lumped into mental health disorder, which may be overlooked as well.
And so tell us what families should take away from this who have young athletes at home.
Yes. So one, education is key. Even if your team is not providing, which I hope they provide concussion education, taking the time to understand what concussion symptoms are and following the concussion protocol. The children, all players, they get excited and they also want to go back out because they feel like they're okay, but really following to make sure that the symptoms have subsided before they continue to play.
Okay. And so what should families know when working in conjunction with healthcare?
Well, if they're aware of what the symptoms are, to bring those up, to ask questions. Also, in speech language pathology, we are the primary caretaker for working with cognitive communicative symptoms. And so requesting a speech and language evaluation is very important.
Okay, and your study on cognitive and communication differences within the Black communities, how can culturally different communication styles lead clinicians to misunderstand or misdiagnose us?
Yes. So, we've all kind of been raised with this idea that there's a certain way you have to communicate. Our school system has pretty much trained us in this way, that there's a proper way and an improper way. And our tests don't always allow for what we call Black English, right? And so if there's implicit biases that is a lesser way of speaking, or it's not as appropriate or not professional, they can be rated as lower on the test.
And your work connects athlete brain health to really the broader public health disparities?
It does. It does. It's not that different from what we see with individuals who experience strokes, when we see maternal health issues, some of those same concerns, and even the concerns of the Black community, with mistrust. I just talked about Henrietta Lacks. That's one of the topics that comes up as well. So, it definitely, it is a broader issue. And I would also like to say that concussion is something that happens to everyone. It's also not always well seen and well known. So it definitely addresses the broader community.
Well, definitely an important conversation today, Dr. Elena Davis. Thank you so much for joining us here on The Breakdown.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Well, coming up on Roland Martin, he explained why the math, not mythology, determines outcomes of elections after Vice President Kamala Harris backs Democratic Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. That story, in case you missed it on Roland Martin Unfiltered, coming up on The Breakdown. But first, have you come across a news story that deserves national attention? We certainly want to hear from you. Please scan that QR code that's on your screen right now, and you can share your ideas with us, and we would love to share them here on The Breakdown. We'll be right back. Stay with us. You're watching The Breakdown.
They said the quiet part out loud. Black votes are a threat, so they erased them. After the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act in 2013, Republican legislatures moved fast. New voter ID laws, polling place shutdowns, purges of black voters from the rolls. Trump's Justice Department didn't stop it, they joined in. In 2018, his DOJ backed Ohio's voter purge system, a scheme that disproportionately erased black voters. Their goal, erase black votes and political power. Yeah, that happened. These are the kinds of stories that we cover every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Subscribe on YouTube and download the Black Star Network app. Support fact-based independent journalism that centers African Americans and the issues that matter to our community.
If in this country right now, you have people get up in the morning and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power, that's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
We are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say, and they don't ultimately win.
What's happening? This is your man, Motown recording artist Kim. You are watching the Black Star Network.
Well, today on our Black and Missing segment, we're asking that you help Alabama police find 2-year-old Genesis Reed. She went missing February 16th, 2026, around 8 o'clock p.m. in the area of Apache Drive in Enterprise, Alabama. Genesis was last seen wearing pink Minnie Mouse pajamas. Through investigations, authorities believe Genesis has been missing for weeks. Her mother, Adrienne Reed, was arrested for false reporting to law enforcement. If you have any information, please contact Enterprise Police Department at 334-347-2222. Well, in case you missed it on Roland Martin Unfiltered, Roland talks about Kamala Harris backing Jasmine Crockett ahead of the primaries in Texas. He discusses how Black voters hold the power to reshape Texas and the national map.
Folks, primaries in Texas and North Carolina take place on Tuesday, March 3rd. Early voting ends today in Texas at 7 p.m. Central. And earlier today, former Vice President Kamala Harris dropped a robocall in support of Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who is running against Texas State Representative James Tallarico for the Democratic nomination for United States Senate. Here it is.
You to please go vote for my friend Jasmine Crockett in the Democratic primary today, Friday, February 27th, or on Election Day, Tuesday, March 3rd. Texas has the chance to send a fighter like Jasmine Crockett to the United States Senate. Jasmine has the experience and record to hold Donald Trump and his billionaire cronies accountable. But Jasmine can only do it if people like you vote early. Today, Friday, February 27th, or on Election Day, Tuesday, March 3rd. It's time to turn Texas blue. And I thank you. Please take care. Bye-bye.
Paid for by Jasmine for Texas.
All right, folks. This is one of the few races that Vice President Harris has actually weighed in on the national level. There have been some local races where she's given endorsements, and already people have been talking back and forth. Will this help? Will this hurt? Candace, my position is very simple on this, and that is when you're trying to win the primary, you throw everything at it. You don't sit here and say, oh, I'm not quite sure. Bottom line is you're trying to win. This is a tight race. People need to understand in Texas, you can pick which primary you want to vote in. So it's not like you are either a registered Democrat or a registered Republican. When you go to the polls, I voted last Friday. When I went to the polls, it was very simple. Got to the polls and they said, which primary do you want to vote in? You want to vote in the Republican primary? You want to vote in the Democratic primary? There have been in the past, I remember there have been a few elections where I did vote in the Republican primary because there were black candidates, there were black judges who were on the ballot. See, what people don't, what folks don't understand about politics, I'll give you an example. Dallas County. First of all, the state of Texas used to be blue. They called them yellow dog Democrats. It was a blue state. Then, of course, George W. Bush beats Ann Richards. Then he runs again for re-election. And since 1988, Democrats have been losing all statewide offices. So there was a point where Dallas County was a blue county. Then Dallas County became red. I remember John Cruzo, longtime Democratic judge, who's now the district attorney running for re-election. I remember when John Cruzo actually ran as a Republican in order to stay on the bench because the county had flipped. And so in Texas, you get to decide which one you want to vote in. So when people are talking right now about how Democrats are outpacing Republicans, well, we don't know if the Republican voters are actually voting in the Democratic primary. It was interesting. I saw this one tweet today. This thing is all over the place, Candace, where, the Republicans were claiming they were urging Crockett to get into the race. And then now we're hearing, Republicans are really scared to death of James Tallarico. And so now a deputy White House person put a tweet out, no, they fear Crockett. I mean, it's all this sort of stuff. And my whole deal is like, y'all, none of that stuff matters. It's Tallarico, it's Crockett. one of them is going to win. And bottom line, that's what's going to be the case. And so again, when you're at this point, you throw everything. So if I'm Crockett, hell yeah, I'm pushing Harris's endorsement. If that could pick me up votes, so be it.
Yeah, so be it. And like you said earlier, you're dealing with a situation where people have choice. They have choice as to whether or not to go to this primary. And as you said, the whole purpose sometimes of the Republican Party was to get people to stay home. So the first thing that we have to is a takeaway that you always talk about. You have to get out and go and vote. That's number one. Number two, this is the first kind of major person that Kamala has really stepped out to go ahead and endorse. So this is obviously very major, and it's something that she firmly believes in, and she knows that it matters. And Jasmine Crockett knows that it matters. Whether people thought that, Kamala Harris did a good job or not, or who was she during that 100 days, and I can't tell who she was, and she didn't really stand on her ground. It doesn't matter. You pull out all the punches now and you go for what you know. And what you know right now is that Kamala, she could have made America a lot better than Trump. This is what we know. And I think that that's a lot to count on in terms of Jasmine Crockett making sure that she gets that support. And let's be clear. It was vice versa too. Jasmine Crockett certainly firmly agreed that Kamala should have been the next president of the United States. And she showed that support. And that's what we're seeing now.
What was tripping me out, Matt, I'm looking at all of these stories. Semaphore has a story up. A Democratic U.S. senator say, a lot of us are pulling for Tallarico. He's the viable candidate. There was a video that went around. There was a white woman who was in tears saying, I really love Jasmine Crockett, her fight and her energy, but I really think he's electable. And you've had race thrown in this. You've had gender thrown in this and all of this. And when I keep hearing that, again, as a native Texan, as somebody still registered in Texas, I'm trying to understand why it's, he is a viable candidate and she's not. When I've seen multiple polls that show if the corrupt Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton beats incumbent Senator John Cornyn, that it's going to be a tight race, whether it's Tallarico or Crockett. So how is he more viable than she is?
I think he's more viable than she is because he's a white man, and they think that confers upon him a greater ability to win this state. I mean, I'm going to go vote on Tuesday. I vote religiously on Election Day. And I've always, thought that this is a failing of the Texas Democratic Party to not iron this out and have two very quality candidates, two candidates who are driving engagement in a way some other candidates have not in recent history, running for the same office. I mean, it just seems to me they should have figured this out. I don't know all the backdoor stuff, but it puts us in a bad spot. I think speaking directly to it, that's the issue. The issue is they think because he's a white man, he's more qualified, he's better, do better out.
All right, Matt, hold tight 1 second. Matt, hold tight 1 second. Where your signal is breaking up, so we need to fix that. I'm gonna go to Michael. Michael, again, I'm real clear, Michael. Texas, there are 254 counties in Texas. No Democrat has won statewide since 1988. Beto O'Rourke came within 2.5 points of beating Ted Cruz. Colin Allred lost between about 10 points. When you look at the other races, it was blowout races that were taking place. So, again, I've seen polling, and polling shows that it's Crockett almost tied or up 1 or 2 against Paxton. Tallarico tied or up 1 or 2 against Paxton. So, again, it's amazing how none of these people have actually said what makes Tallarico more viable. And I'm just like, okay, explain it. He can appeal to voters across the aisle. Okay, that's it? In Ruby Red, Texas? Okay.
Well, a few points here. And I just did a video earlier this week dealing with Jasmine Crockett, talking about one of her constituents named Miss Gladys, who's an African-American woman, 79 years old. And Miss Gladys went to the polls in Texas to vote for Jasmine Crockett and was given a Republican ballot. And Jasmine, and just as you were talking about, Roland, Jasmine Crockett is warning people, make sure you ask for a Democratic ballot, because her constituent was given a Republican ballot. But Matt just hit on it. Okay. And I'm going to take it a step further. It's not that just Tallarico is a white man. What it is if you think of the previous U.S. senators from Texas, okay, to my knowledge, they were all white men, or mostly white men, right? Now, Jasmine Crockett, I love Jasmine Crockett. I hope she wins. She is eminently qualified. But when they say that Tallarico is more viable, they are operating based upon their conception of what a U.S. senator from Texas looks like. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying understanding how white people think, and some African Americans as well. That's what they're saying. This is the same problem that Kamala Harris ran into. Kamala Harris was overqualified. Kamala Harris should have won. But if you go back, when you had people who thought Donald Trump was more presidential, that's a damn lie, but they're operating based upon white supremacy. When they thought Donald Trump was more presidential, when you look at all of the previous pictures of past presidents, except for Obama, when you look at all of the movies and TV shows that depict presidents, probably 95% of them is an older white male. So Kamala Harris totally broke that mold. And in a lot of people's minds, when you talk about president of the United States, they picture somebody who looks more like Donald Trump than Kamala Harris. This is what we're dealing with. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying this is what we're dealing with. And also Cardi B came out and endorsed Jasmine Crockett as well in the U.S. Senate race in Texas also. So Kamala Harris and Cardi B. I have disagreements with Cardi B, but hey, this is a good thing. I'd rather for her to endorse Jasmine Crockett than Donald Trump, like Nicki Minaj is doing. You know, so as you said, Roland, in the primary, you throw everything at the wall.
Well, coming up tonight on Roland Martin Unfiltered, a preview of tomorrow's primary elections. One we are closely watching, Texas Democratic Senate race between Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett and Texas State Representative James Tallarico. All right, coming up after the break, a conversation every parent needs to hear. We're talking discipline, accountability, and how to raise confident children without creating entitlement. The authors of How to Raise Spoiled Kids joins us next on The Breakdown. Stay with us. If you love the work that we're doing here on the Black Star Network, know that your support is critical to the work that we do. You can support us via Cash App using the Stripe code. We will put that, there it is, in the bottom left-hand corner. You can also help us out with credit cards. Use the same thing. PayPal's are Martin Unfiltered, Venmo's RM Unfiltered, Zelle at RolandSMartin.com, Rolling at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. If you're old school, you can send us a check or a money order. It's all payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Our goal is to raise $1 million by December 31st, and so we really would appreciate your support. Stay with us. You're watching The Breakdown on the Black Star Network.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
Hey y'all, welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Bria Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
Welcome back. Today, we're talking about parenting, discipline, and raising confident children without creating entitlement. Authors Derek and Taria Slack are challenging families to rethink what it really means to raise spoiled kids in their book, How to Raise Spoiled Kids. They join us now on the breakdown. Welcome.
Hello, Brittany.
Hello, Brittany.
Good to see you again.
It's great to have you on the show and great to see you yes again. Tell us a little bit about your beautiful family and what inspired you guys to write this book.
I'll go. So we have 3 daughters, and we decided early on that we wanted to give them a life of abundance and show them that the world is much smaller than what they may believe. And the smaller the world is, the bigger they become. So we set out on a journey to just give them tools that's going to lead them to a wonderful life of being spoiled. And we've remixed spoiled. Spoiled isn't just about indulgence or giving them toys and things like that, or giving them what they want. We're giving them tools. And spoiled is an acronym that we've created that means
Savers, producers, owners, investors, leaders, entrepreneurs, and
disciplined.
And so tell us a little bit more about how you are using that to teach your children about how they should be living their lives.
Well, we felt like too many of our families were passing down the struggle mentality and not passing down the mentality of, strategy. So in this guide, it helps parents to recreate the mindset for kids, helps them to understand money, ownership, and responsibility. So in short, we want families to have this on their bookshelf so they can use this guide and these heartfelt stories that are included in this guide, on the daily basis, and feel like they have more tools that can kind of guide them through what they're going through, because it gets hard out here raising teenagers.
Tell us about some of these heartfelt stories that you share in the book.
A couple of them are from our past when we first learned how to do budgeting together. And in the beginning, we started off very colorful and very creative. And it would end in tears and fights. And so we learned that we come from different backgrounds. So we had to find a common denominator and a common space to work in. And so we did that. And it took whiles. It took years. And we use this book as a tool to put it in there that, it's not going to be easy, but it's worthwhile and it can be done. It is possible.
Tell us more about how parents can give their children opportunities while still teaching gratitude and responsibility. I definitely asked that because you guys are business owners and I've seen that you have put your children to work as well.
We definitely have. So we own Black Leaf Vegan in Indianapolis. It's a cafe, but it's also a wellness organization that just teaches how to live healthier, wealthier lives. And that is an extension of what we instill within our children, is that working hard and earning is how you produce a result. So being a saver, you want to save your money. Being a producer, you want to create something, and we've created opportunities for them to carry on. One such thing that we do in our family, when our children turn 10 years old, when they turn 10, they get a trip anywhere in the world just with dad, just me and the one child, the 10-year-old. And that teaches them how to be prepared. When they turn 13, they get a trip with mom. And she teaches her everything that a 13-year-old daughter would want. And then when they turn 16, they get a trip with both of us. And we take trips all over the world just to show them the abundance of life, not just the scarcity of it.
But also, we want families to not take away from that and say that, this is only reserved for the rich. This is about intentionality. This is about how you're able to give your children, not everything, but you're able to teach them anything. You teach them how to build anything, and that is through intentionality.
Well said.
What are some other practical lessons that maybe families can start applying at home right away?
It's just one story that we tell in the book is about one of our youngest daughter, who is very precocious. She wants to do everything her older sister wants to do. One thing, we went swimming one time, and she wanted to jump in the deep end, and mom thought she wasn't ready, and dad said, when the child is ready, she's going to jump. So we let it, I let her jump after some dialogue between the parents. We let her jump in the deep end. But we had her sister in the middle waiting for her just in case something happened. Mm-hmm. And as she was going across, she started to, she started to flail, and, I don't want to use the word drown, but she started not to make it. And so, after a few seconds, her sister grabbed her, and she was so angry at her sister for not grabbing her sooner. And after she calmed down, I said, darling, once you are ready, you have to jump right back in, because it's no one's responsibility to save you. When you are ready, you need to have the tools, and don't give up. So you start to drown when you give up. You start to drown when you stop expecting someone to come and save you. No one's responsibility is to save you. You can accept help, but don't expect it. So she jumped back in, and she made it all the way across. And that empowerment that it gave her, it's long lasting. It's still, that was a few years ago, and she's still carrying on those lessons in the way she takes risk and the way she prepares herself.
She's an owner.
Oh, that's
she owns her personality and her way. She realized that no one's there to save you. Save yourself. And that is in ownership as well. We think that as in Blackly Vegan, we've taught our kids early on, you're going to work the food truck. And they've learned the hard way. It's hard. It's hot. Right. It's sweaty. Customers are not always happy. But still, you need to keep a smile. You need to stay disciplined, and keep yourself, your own respect, your own self-integrity. And the only way to do that is continue to learn these things now before unlearning them in adulthood. Won't unlearn scarcity in adulthood. You need to be learning it now.
Yeah. Before I let you guys go, what do you really hope that readers take away the most from your book?
Generational wealth is more than money. What you also need to be passing down is mindset, health, values, skills, assets, and opportunities. It's making sure that the next generation starts with a foundation instead of, a financial apology. Sorry I couldn't leave you more. Sorry I couldn't do this. It's about, I've left you all the tools that you can make your life and the life of your offspring much better.
And families want to do this. They want to do this. They just don't feel like they have the tools or the capability. This book lets you relax and say, hey, this is your guide. Just use it. And so if you just open the book up, use it, laugh a little bit with us, and also don't take it so hard on yourself. You do all you can and use the tools you can. Kids either take them or they don't take them. Sometimes they take some of the seeds, and sometimes they don't take some of the seeds. Take some of the seeds and they plant them and they make their own way. So that's what the book's about.
All right, Derek and Taria, where can we find your book?
MySpoiledKids.com. Just go there, order 90 copies. You order 90 copies, you get 90 copies delivered to you.
Sounds like a great deal. Derek and Taria, thank you so much for joining us today on The Breakdown.
All right.
Thank you, Brittany.
Thank you, Brittany.
You're welcome. Well, that will do it for us today on The Breakdown. We want to thank you so much for your support. We want to take this opportunity to remind you that you can always go to our website, shopblackstarnetwork.com. That's where you can get your official Black Star Network swag, but it doesn't just stop there. When you shop blackstarnetwork.com, you're supporting a growing collection of Black-owned businesses, all featured on our site that you can shop and purchase. And you can just keep the money circulating in our community. Again, that's shopblackstarnetwork.com. That will do it for us today. Thank you for spending part of your day with us here on The Breakdown. Be sure to keep the conversation going online. I'd love to connect with you. Please find me on social media at The Noble Journalist. You can always send us your questions or your story ideas. Let us know what's happening on your community. You can go to our website, blackstarnetwork.com. Don't forget, we'll be right back here tomorrow with more news, context, and voices that matter. And for more news, special coverage, and on-demand content, again, blackstarnetwork.com.